You are either controlling reality or reality is controlling you. And that boils down to a matter of awareness. You have to become aware of the fact that you are constantly in a feedback loop with reality. That feedback loop is based on your energy. So reality is not responding to what you prefer, what you desire, what you're yearning for, what you're begging for, or even what you're praying for. It's responding to your dominant energetic state. And most people are running around in very low frequencies, in very limited energetic states. And so you have this electromagnetic field around your body, you have this frequency that's emitting information constantly. But if you remain in a very limited frequency, in a very limited state, you are always going to remain in a very limited reality. And what does that look like? It looks like suffering, it looks like forcing, it looks like constantly fighting your reality and your circumstances, okay? The reason you're constantly fighting when you're in this limited state is because you don't realize how powerful your energy is. You're trying to fight matter with matter because you don't understand that the thing that precedes matter, which is your energy, is actually the most powerful component of who you are. And if you want your reality to change, you don't need more effort. You don't need to keep trying harder and hustling harder and forcing more. You need a new energetic baseline. What you really want, what everybody wants, is to feel joy, is to feel flow, love, abundance, ease, opportunity. And what that means is shifting your energy so that your energy field expands, your frequency raises, and essentially you become the person who's dictating to reality what your outcomes are rather than the other way around. So this, when you're in a very high state and you have a more powerful energetic field, you become the reference point that reality uses. And we're going to get into how this actually works in a minute, how you are interacting with reality, essentially with your energy. But from this energy, you're setting the tone in reality rather than reacting to the tone that's been programmed into your reality based on your past energy. I'm assuming you've clicked on this video because you want your circumstances to change, because you want to get out of debt, or you want to get out of this situation that you've been in. You want to start living in alignment to what you truly desire in this reality. And that can't happen. Nothing can actually change in your physical reality until you change energetically. Before we get into how to shift your energy, I want you to first understand how energy actually interacts with reality. And to start with this, we're going to actually break down what is reality. Reality is what we call matter. This is the world of the 1%. So what we're perceiving with our 5 physical senses is less than 1% of what actually exists in the entire quantum field of everything in existence. The Kabbalists call this the realm of 1%. Even if you think about light, how it's refracted through our eyesight, it's less than 1%. It's 0.0035% of the entire electromagnetic spectrum of light. And that's just what we can measure with our tools, okay? So what we are perceiving as reality, the material world, is very, very limited. And it's basically a grouping of particles that are vibrating at a particular frequency that is perceptible to our senses, okay? If the vibration of that frequency were to fall outside of what our senses could perceive, we would not perceive it as matter anymore. So it's particles vibrating at a perceptible frequency. Now, there's a key word there, perception. What you perceive as reality and what I perceive as reality are totally different. Let's take the example of 2 people are in a house and they hear a loud noise. One person in a very fear-based state of consciousness who maybe has a lot of stored past experiences that were scary is going to hear that loud noise and is going to think, oh my goodness, something's happening, someone's breaking into the house, something terrible is happening. The other person might think, oh, maybe a bird flew into a window, or maybe my neighbor has come to drop some cake off or something, because they're in a totally different state of consciousness. They don't have that same fear expectation that they're running the sensory experience through within their paradigm that's creating their perception. So this is a perception-based universe. You do not see reality as it is. You see it as you are. So automatically, you should be thinking, okay, There's a lot more to reality than what's physically there. It changes based on the perception of the observer. Now, what is there beyond matter? Scientists have confirmed that there is a quantum field of information that exists beyond our senses, beyond our perception, beyond time. In that field, things don't really exist as particles, they exist as waves of potential information. And we see how us as conscious observers with consciousness can interact with these waves. So before something exists as a particle, it exists as a wave, as a possibility. In the double slit experiment, we saw that once these waves were observed by an external observer, they actually collapsed and they changed form from possibility into particles. So the reason you've been stuck in the feedback loop that you've been stuck in is because you, as a conscious observer with creative consciousness in your body, you've been basically directing your focus at particles, at fixed form, at matter, at the same old circumstances, the same old situation, the same old account balance, the same old dynamics in your reality. And you're allowing those things that are already crystallized into material form to dictate to you what's true, what to believe, how to organize your self-concept, what emotional baseline you should have. And so you've basically been programmed by these particles in your environment because you're constantly feeding your creative consciousness into these things in your reality. And the way that you're going to start breaking out of this and you're going to start to become the person who's setting the tone in your reality and changing the feedback loop is you have to take your conscious awareness off these known things in reality and you have to instead place it on the possibility, on the new unknown, on the potential that exists in the quantum field. And on the potential and the possibility that you prefer. I'm going to give you a really helpful analogy to just help wire this in. Okay, we exist on 3 planes according to the Hermetists. We exist on the spiritual plane, the mental plane, and the physical plane. Okay? In the spiritual plane, everything is in existence. Everything is already created. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. And so every possibility already exists in this infinite, vast field of information that's beyond our senses and our physical experience. Then we also exist on the mental plane and we exist on the physical plane. So the physical plane is just everything that's materialized in physical form that we can perceive with our 5 senses. But what is the mental plane? The mental plane is like the portal. It's the middleman between the spiritual and the physical. So you have been given a fractal of God, source, creative consciousness, and you have the ability to direct your conscious awareness at new possibilities. You have been given imagination, you've been given will, you've been given creativity, you've been gifted with intuition. You have all of these higher faculties within you that you can utilize to create a new experience energetically, which will result in a new experience physically. Because you are one with God, with source, with the spiritual plane, you are in existence on the spiritual plane. Because you are thinking all the time and you have these higher mental faculties, you're existing on the mental plane. And because you have a physical body, you are also existing on the physical plane, which means you are the perfect vessel for ideas and new experiences to be birthed physically into reality. You have everything that you need to do that. So the analogy I want to give you with this is when you're trying to fight matter with matter constantly and you're not rising above and using your higher faculties and changing your energy and your mind and your emotional state, what you're basically doing is it's like you're trying to force a shadow to move without moving the thing that's actually creating the shadow, okay? It's like you're trying to change an echo without changing the source of the echo, without changing the voice, okay? So physical reality is the final lowest plane of existence. It is a non-causal plane of existence. The mental plane is a causal plane, and then the spiritual plane is the source of everything. And so when you're trying to fight reality against reality and you're not changing the cause, which is you, your energy, your paradigm, what you're essentially doing is you're trying to fight an echo with an echo. You're trying to fight a shadow with a shadow. Rather than going a step above, for example, the shadow is 2D, and going and rising above to 3D and moving on to 3D, which automatically moves the 2D shadow. It's the same thing in the higher planes as well. If you want to shift the shadow that you're experiencing as 3D reality, you need to shift on the higher planes, on the energetic planes, on the unseen planes. So how can you actually become the energy that is resonant with all of the miracles and the blessings and the abundance and the good that you wish to experience? Well, you first need to start taking your energy seriously. Here you are. This is your physical body. This is a tiny percentage of who you are. You've got to stop taking that more seriously than you're taking this other component of you, which is your energetic frequency. So you have thoughts and you have, let's say that's your brain, emotions coming from your heart center. Your thoughts are coming from your mind. Your emotions are coming from your heart center. Emotions from the heart center, your heart creates a magnetic field around your body, and your thoughts are electrical signals. So the combination of your thoughts and your emotions create an electromagnetic field around your body that is so much bigger than you. What generates your thoughts is your paradigm or your beliefs, and overall the amalgamation of your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, what you're focused on is your identity, is who you are. And that is correspondent to a particular frequency. You might have seen me before talking about the different states of consciousness. This is essentially what I'm demonstrating here, okay? So when you have a very limited state, when you're in the emotions of shame, resentment, guilt, fear, grief, and you're having negative thoughts constantly, what that emotional state does is it essentially constricts the amount of energy that you are emitting from your heart center. It constricts your capacity to have life force energy flowing to you and through you into your life. And so your perception when you're in these lower states becomes very, very narrow. When you raise up in your emotional state and in your energy, and when you open up your heart, essentially what happens is the magnetic field around your body expands. And as soon as that happens, your perception expands instantly. The opportunities you perceive are different. You're all of a sudden able to see good, where before you only saw bad or suffering. Your whole idea and experience of reality changes immediately. And in this energy, where your heart is open and you're feeling love, joy, all of these higher frequency emotions, you become magnetic to good unfolding in your reality. You actually cannot even perceive fearful things or potential threats, or you're not really scanning for dangers anymore because it no longer resonates with you and your energetic state. So this is where everyone is getting it backwards. You're standing here, you're in this really limited energetic state where you can't perceive much, and you're saying, when I get this thing in physical reality, then I will desired feeling. I will have the feeling that I desire. But the thing is, things can't give you feelings. And you can't stay in a limited frequency, a limited energetic state, and expect to have the outcome of blessings and miracles and abundance. It just doesn't work like that. If you're in the energy of suffering, you're going to stay in the reality of suffering. Even if you somehow get these things that you think you want, you're still going to suffer because that is your energetic baseline. That's what you're trained yourself to experience, and that's what you've trained reality to respond to. And so you've got to start flipping this on its head and take things off the pedestal and realize you are the one generating your experiences. And if you allow yourself to have the desired feelings now, if you allow yourself to open up your heart, if you allow yourself to start feeling joy, bliss, acceptance, presence, wonder, awe, that is when everything that you desire will be added onto you. And I literally have lived this, you guys. I've lived in the energy of suffering. I know how different reality looks when you're in this limited state, when you're in these lower frequency emotions. It looks like a threat. It looks like danger. It looks like hell. It looks like everything is wrong and terrible. It looks like there's no hope. There's no opportunities. There's no good, because that's what your state is. But I've also been in this state, and it's a whole different world. Nothing outside me actually changed. It was everything within me that changed. And then, as the Hermetics say, as within, as without. As soon as I started operating in more love, as soon as I started opening up my heart and feeling these higher frequency emotions, I saw a totally different world around me. And you have everything you need to change this yourself. You have to stop putting these emotions, though, on things. You have to stop waiting for things to give you feelings, because things can't do that for you. You've got to realize that you are the one at the center of all of this. And as soon as you change your energy, as soon as you decide to feel how you want to feel now, regardless of your circumstances, that's when your circumstances start to flip and change to match your new energy. I'm going to give you 2 steps to shift your energy so that you can become this new reference point in your reality, so you can change the feedback loop, okay? And you're going to go from this really constricted energy of suffering into this expansive, open, loving energy that perceives more good in reality and therefore has a completely different experience of reality. And how you're going to do that, first of all, is you have to get out of survival mode, fight or flight mode in your nervous system. So you need to shift out of a sympathetic state in your nervous system and shift into a parasympathetic state, okay? Which basically means your nervous system is regulated. You have to signal safety to your body so that you can actually slow down and let go and stop scanning for threats constantly in your environment. Nothing closes your heart and restricts your energy and closes down your perception of the good in reality more than being in this survival mode, okay? When you're in survival mode in your nervous system, your perception is only focused on danger, is only focused on threats, is only focused on negativity, because your body thinks you are unsafe. Okay? If you are in a situation where you do feel like you're unsafe, please get out of that situation as quickly as you can. Find an environment where you can actually relax. Once you have that environment, even if it's just a room to yourself or a safe space, then make a conscious effort to actually physically relax. So you want to regulate, relax, and then enter present moment awareness. Present moment awareness is essentially when you exit your constant thought patterns, right? Your habitual, known, familiar thoughts that are creating your known, familiar frequency that's generating the same energetic frequency over and over again. Present moment awareness steps you outside of that, right? So rather than being in the same old thought loops constantly, when you consistently practice sitting down and just becoming totally present and you observe your thoughts, you are stepping out of autopilot and into the observer. That is the doorway to a new experience. That is the doorway to essentially taking your conscious awareness off the particles, off the known, and putting it on the wave, putting it on the potential. Someone gave this example on a video before. When you're trying to go from thinking negative thoughts to thinking positive thoughts, you might have been trying that for a long time. You may have noticed how difficult it is. She said it's like trying to jump across the Grand Canyon, okay? But what present moment awareness does and stepping into the observer does is it basically builds a bridge for you across the Grand Canyon. So you're not just trying to jump. You have the support now where you're able to observe and detach and realize that these familiar thoughts are not you. They're just what you've trained yourself to focus on. And as soon as you take your focus off them, you realize you have the power to focus on something new. So the second step, once you've done this one, is to focus on what you prefer. And I'm not telling you to focus on it like you don't have it. Actually, I'm going to put in here, from. I want you focusing on what you prefer, but I want you actually more specifically focusing from what you prefer. What do I mean by this? So you want to think about the idea, direct your consciousness towards the new thoughts you want to think on, and then you need to buy into it with your emotions, which means feeling the feelings now. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. So you have to start seeing yourself as already having what you desire. You have to start thinking from your desire, feeling from your desire. Use your imaginative faculties to see yourself differently, and then get your emotions involved. Ask yourself, how would I feel if I already had what I desire? Play it like a movie in your head. You're basically connecting your consciousness in the quantum to this new possibility that already exists. You're buying into it intellectually, you're buying into it emotionally. What happens when you do both of those things? So you have the idea, you think it through in your mind, and then you actually get your emotions involved, is that whole experience gets embedded into your subconscious mind, okay? So let's not even talk about quantum for a second. When you buy into something in your thoughts, when you think a thought and you feel an emotion, what is a belief? A belief is just a thought that's backed by a lot of emotion. So when you get your head around something intellectually, when you're thinking about it a lot from the perspective of already having it, already doing it, already being it, and you're buying into it emotionally and you develop emotional conviction in it, it passes into your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind then immediately influences your perception, and it automatically changes how your body takes action. As soon as you get this, you don't need to worry about how, because your energy has changed. So the how will take care of itself automatically. This is what it looks like to stop forcing matter against matter and stop trying to will things to change in physical reality. This is what it looks like to go to the cause. And when you change the energy that you're emitting, you become a new reference point for reality, and then reality reorganizes itself all on its own.